Hey folks, Larson Halleck here with another rant. The title, I think, poses a very important question that nobody's really asking. While lots of nerds will angrily go on diatribes about fake geek girls, and even more women will go on diatribes about the diatribes, I think we have to ask, do fake geek girls, quote unquote, even exist? And if they do exist, why are some men so goddamn angry about them? Just to clarify before I receive a deluge of hate, yes, there are women that are earnestly interested in nerd stuff and fandoms, nobody's denying that. What we're talking about are the allegations that there are some women who pretend to be into these fandoms in order to get some sort of benefit for themselves, money, fame, or merely the slavering attention of thirsty beta males. Many would argue that this phenomenon does not exist, and that this is all a product of the fevered imaginations of quote-unquote bitter man babies. That is the position that Rational Wiki takes, and I will assume the rest of the leftist political sphere takes as well. Rational Wiki being one of the few out-and-out leftist sites I can actually, read once in a while. Rational Wiki's argument is essentially, well, why would these so-called fake geek girls even bother pretending to be fans of whatever, when they could probably get just as much attention by dressing in skanky clothing and walking into a nerd consortium as is? This argument is certainly logical, but I don't think that this is right at all. I think that there are quite a few examples of women pretending to be part of stereotypically male-dominated fandoms in order to profit off them somehow, and not just in nerddom, as we shall see. And again, I must clarify that no matter the field, the majority of women in them are probably legitimately engaged in them. We're not talking about those women here, nor are we talking about something like a woman being a petty tyrant in a comic book shop. That woman presumably likes comics while still basking in the attention of the dorks that surround her. Those of you who followed Gamergate will of course know that fake geek girls are a thing. Despite her rapidly growing irrelevance to things, Anita Sarkeesian is a shining example of one of these. She has openly admitted that she had no interest in video games until she had the idea to do her video series.
I'm going to show you a remix that I just finished this weekend and no one else has seen. One person has seen it. It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
There's too many dicks on the dance floor!
Too many dicks on the dance floor. Too many dicks on the dance floor.
Too many dicks.
To me, the song is positive just because I've only contextualized it in a way to critique male domination in our media. And also video games, like I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So hence this is my response to that.
Because she was smart and she knew that there was a lot of feminist criticism of video games, the winds of culture were turning against quote-unquote angry man-child nerds, and there was money to be made, and she certainly made a lot of it. Having no interest in a nerd fandom, pretending to in order to shoehorn herself into the public eye and making six figures for it, sounds like a fake geek girl to me. But I would argue that the fake geek girl nomenclature is a bit of a misnomer, as their numbers are widely overstated in nerddom. Most woman nerds are legitimate. However, there's another subculture that attracts pert and perky poseurs in much higher numbers than video games or comic books: right-wing politics. I am not the first one to point this out, but it bears repeating. The term fake geek girl really ought to fall out of use and be replaced with pundit thought or conserva thought, because unlike nerd fandoms, rightist politics have no shortage of vapid bimbos repeating talking points. I mean, certainly a lot more than the video game or comic book fandoms. And there's even greater numbers of sexually incompetent dorks thirsting over their every word. The only difference being that the right-wing dorks are probably middle-aged men rather than the teenagers and young men associated with nerd fandoms. And really, that's even more pathetic because a 40-something man really ought to know better, as you can see here. Absolutely pathetic. But no, just take a good-looking girl, give her an American flag bikini and a rifle, and in comes the fan mail from thirsty middle-aged fat asses. Why else would intellectual non-entities like Lauren Southern and Tomi Lahren have careers? Because they certainly look a lot better in a bikini than Glenn Beck does, or Alex Jones does, and they're about intellectually on par with them. If you want to talk about an utter lack of respect for the denizens of the fandom, Lauren Southern quite obviously has no respect whatsoever for her fans. And incidentally, as somebody who not infrequently wears anime pants, Lauren Southern significantly overlaps with the fake geek girl as well. So now that we see that there is some truth to this stereotype, the question remains, why do women do it, and why are some men angry about it? Well, I feel that a lot of women want attention, more than just the sexual. They want adoration, even if it is from losers. Women want to be the queen of their own little kingdom. A pretty girl wearing skimpy clothing is just a model, and there's no shortage of those in the world. But a pretty girl that's into nerd stuff, or talking about Austrian economics, That's, allegedly, rare and exciting. Whether it's nerds or conservatives, a lot of them are high cholesterol failures that don't get laid, and seeing a pretty girl spouting rightist talking points gets them standing at attention. As for why some other men are angry about this, it's not because the big bad women are invading man space. It's the disingenuity and blatant lack of respect these women show. I don't see it as being at all pathological that an in-group is angered when somebody pretends to be part of the group to make a quick buck. Most nerd men are, from my experience, perfectly willing to accept a nerd girl if she can prove that she is genuine. They just don't like being lied to and disrespected. I think that's fair. So to answer the question, yeah, fake geek girls do exist, but most of them are holding rifles and American flags now. I'm Larson Halleck, fuck this shit. And now a word from our sponsors. Hello, are you a fan of Larson Halleck and the Barbaric Gentleman? Of course you are, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. Would you like to help the channel grow? Would you like to help me out? If so, here's how you can. You can go to patreon.com/LarsonHalleck and join the ranks of these illustrious heroes. You can also go to www.paypal.me/LarsonHalleck to also donate some money. You can also buy my book. The Patreon, the PayPal, and the link to my book are all found in the video description. You can also follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. I no longer advertise my Gab because Gab sucks. Otherwise, enjoy, keep watching the videos, and spread the word.